Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Frank About Health. Today is October 26th, 2023. We are live on LinkedIn, Twitch, and on YouTube right now. And we are also live on talkradio.nyc. Now, we're here today to close out Mental Health Awareness Month by talking about nutrition. Now, how does nutrition have to do with mental health? Well, that is why we have our special guest, Evan Mestman, on, on this show, because he's going to talk about his company, Proattitudes, that uses brain technology. And of course, you'll elaborate more on what I'm referring to, Evan. But brain technology to determine how to change your neural pathways and transform your eating habits. So you're using your mind to lose weight rather than constantly going on yo-yo diets or any other kind of nutrition programs that you've probably been used to. So it is a mental health show, but we can also lose some weight during this show. So I'm interested to learn all about Proattitudes, about his experience as a registered dietitian, and not to mention, of course, all about Proattitudes, the company, and its social media presence that you yourself can participate in after this show ends. I need to issue my disclaimer. What you are about to hear tonight is food for thought, literally food for thought. It is not meant to be taken as a way to dissuade you from your ongoing treatment protocol that you might be undertaking with a professional nutritionist or your primary care physician. We are not telling you not to take any vitamin supplements or medications that you may be on. We are just looking to give you an alternative to think about. And if you think it's useful, you can either modify your existing protocol or change it altogether, but that would be up to you and your doctor. So that all being said, what you're going to hear is a nice, friendly conversation and not the views of talkradio.nyc or Frank About Health. So after you unmute, I'd like you to introduce yourself, Evan, because I've got your whole bio here, but I like the way you talk. So
yeah, thank you. Listen, I'm grateful for you having me on this podcast. It's great to be here. I tell everybody I'm the Chief Gratitude Officer of Proattitudes. It's a health, wellness, and mindset coaching business. And I work with business owners and leaders to optimize their health as they're climbing the ladder to success, because they usually want to leave it behind. And I do it by teaching them really how to live their life and, like you said, lose weight with their minds, not their mouths, by being intentional with their health. And also by quieting the inner critic, which is that little voice inside our heads we talk to more than anybody else in the day. It's that inner critic, right? Yeah.
Yes. So tell me exactly in terms of how you got into being a dietitian or a nutritionist. How did that
it's
part
a
of your
funny
life
story. Yeah. I was my first client when I was a kid. My nickname was Heavy Evie. Everyone used to bully me being overweight, and my mom was going on diets every Monday. My father had crazy exercise programs and took all these crazy supplements. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do something different. It wasn't working for me. And I decided to change habits, just ordinary habits, one at a time over a summer. And the simple, ordinary changes led to a transformation. And that I've been reverse engineering ever since, because I wanted to know if I could do it, how can I help other people to do it? So that's why I went to school. I went and got my master's in clinical nutrition, and I'm a registered dietitian. I became a certified diabetes educator as well as certified in nutrition support. I wanted to know it all. I wanted to know what happens in critical care, what happens when somebody's chronically ill, what happens when somebody's really well and thriving. So I also was a certified personal trainer and working in a health club as a trainer and an assistant manager while I was going to school for my master's in clinical nutrition. And then after I got out of school, I wanted to learn more. So I became an adjunct professor teaching nutrition and disease and nutrition and performance at the college level for 10 years. So all of that combined with my thirst for trying to reverse engineer, like I'm trying to help figure out how do you help people? And that's what I've been doing. I've had a passion ever since. And I've learned that the hardest part of this is not the nutrition side of it. It's the mind.
The mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say at that time you were mainly focused on diabetic patients, or was it just anybody who had a weight problem?
Well, in the hospital, I was focusing on diabetes and heart disease. I did my master's in my clinical, my master's thesis was in rehab, cardiac rehab. So I wanted to understand how
See.
cardiac disease with a change in diet and exercise, what impact would that have on people's outcomes? So,
Right.
but I mean, in the health club, what happened is I had an office across the street in a health club, but I got that office because I was working in the hospital. I had a free
Mm.
membership when you're a manager in a health club, you don't pay for a membership. But when I left that, I'm like, I don't want to pay for a membership. So I went across the street. I happened to be the manager of the health club was giving me the tour, and I saw a room in that in the upstairs that had boxes and it was just empty. I said, well,
Oh, wow.
you give me this room, no one's using it, let's clean it up, and I'll do a free nutrition consult for every one of your new members. And that was the first real lead magnet I ever created, and the best. And it was the beginning of my private
Nice.
practice. So yeah,
Wow.
I was learning how to help people lose weight. We had a program called the Big Fat Loser. Once a year, we'd do a 2-month program, the
Yeah.
big fat losers, and we gave 10% of the proceeds to a local charity. But everybody joined because they all wanted to lose body fat. But then across the street, I'm helping with diabetes, heart disease, critical care. I worked in the ICU. I even wanted to learn more, so I was working with the doctors, going to M&M so that I could, that's morbidity mortality meetings, that my boss wants support, but I wanted to go and learn. I wanted to work with the doctors to understand what is going on with these patients. How can we help them? And so I've
Right.
always had this thirst to know what doesn't exist. Like there's got to be more, and there is. So I created my own program as I was
Mhm.
learning all this that I call it right now intentional health, but back then it was the habits of healthy eating. And I went around because of the health club I had. There were people that were there that were great resources for me at different locations at big corporations like ADP, Turner Broadcasting System, Estee Lauder. And I would go into these locations and do my program. At the time, it was called New Attitudes. And I would teach them how to live healthier, how to create that new attitude. And I got
Right.
recruited by a startup that they also were a wellness program, and they wanted me to work for them. I said, I can't give up what I'm doing, but I can consult. And that was the beginning of really seeing the bigger picture that, wow, I could take what I'm doing and help a lot more people. They wanted to take the program that I had and take it from analog to digital, which was way ahead
Right.
of its time back then. But
Right.
that's another story, right? That was the
Right.
story that kind of, it was one of the pivots that happened in my life. So,
And knowing that we've already talked about the story, we're saving that for segment 2. But
okay.
I can also see, based on what people will listen to in that next segment, why you were now more focused on the correlation between your food intake and your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
guess you kind of self-learned how to deal with trauma-based issues that obviously triggered eating behaviors, correct?
I grew up with certain traumas that happened, which were normal for probably kids growing up my age then. You know, my father
Right.
had a very strict hand. So there were some beatings going on there. Not, you know, you would say, okay, that was normal, but you don't see that today. Plus, there are
Right.
other things that having that trauma. A trauma for anybody is, to them, it could be a micro trauma for one person, or not even a trauma, but for another person, it could be a major trauma. It's something that transforms the way you think. So afterwards, you
Right.
do not have the same mindset. It literally changes your neural pathways. And neural pathways, you know,
Yes.
nerves fire, and they fire together, they wire together. The nerves themselves either are chemical or electrical. So the electrical impulses that happen as we learn something, the brain coordinates those electrical impulses so that the nerves can get more and more efficient. And that becomes a neural pathway. That neural pathway then gets embedded in it. It starts out, let's say the first time you do something like, hey, when you first tried to ride a bike, how easy was it? I don't know anybody that rode a bike and never fell, right? You always had to fall when you're riding a bike, right? So it's that issue of, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to coordinate, and you get better and better and better. And in the beginning, you're using an awful lot of brain power. And the idea is to get more and more efficient until it becomes easy to coordinate, until it becomes a habit where you get on, you don't even think about it. You just jump on the bike and go. Well, what happens if that neural pathway is flawed? What if it's based on a flawed belief system? That's what I work on, because there are people who are eating to soothe themselves. There are people that are eating because, or maybe not even eating. I mean, there are things, there are behaviors that they're doing, whether they're not exercising or they don't believe in themselves, based on the neural pathways that they've created. And when you look at it, what I've done is I've created the idea of an inner critic, is these identities you create based on those neural pathways. And they're there to protect you and keep you safe. Because if you really believe that it was mom or dad that was, was bad or was not able to take care of you, you're too young. Usually this is the first 6 years of your life, you're developing these identities. You would not, you can't say, oh, mom's not a good mom. You say, no, it's usually what you do is you have to say, well, oh my gosh, there must be something wrong with me. I deserve that. Well, think about what happens when you create that. You need to find a way out of that. So you punish yourself or you soothe yourself with food, or people will use other ways of doing that. Like they'll do, whether they use drugs or alcohol or whatever other addictions that they might end up. The key is the underlying issue. They may be working
Oh, no, go ahead. It may be working with what?
They may be working with therapists on this, and that is really helpful. I don't take the place of that therapy they're working on, but we need to change those neural pathways. And the chronic diseases of today, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, I don't believe they're just illnesses of metabolism. I really believe they're diseases of the neural pathways. And if we focus on the habits, wow, what amazing things we can do.
Exactly. I mean, I was going to say that based on your training and your eventual traumas that you faced in life and your entrepreneurial skills and abilities, you just naturally gravitated towards what your actual intentions were, whether they were divine intentions or your own that were driven based on your desire to move past your trauma. So when we get back after the next 2 minutes, we're going to talk about how he was able to recover from previous traumas with his education in tow and create Proattitudes. And we'll learn more about the organization and what it could do for you, especially if you want to use your mind to lose your weight. So please stay tuned as we're being frank about health with Evan Mestman right here on talkradio.nyc and on twitch.tv, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'll be back in a few.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Bronku, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back. And as you just saw from the website, Proattitudes is now what we're going to learn a lot about. Evan already touched upon his history, his training, his jobs, as well as his traumas. That probably was the impetus for the business plan that goes beyond it or behind it. But in all frankness, I know there's a 9/11 story here that really triggered Proattitudes. So typically at this point in the show, I would have asked you the standard questions. Who is Proattitudes coaching for? Why do you do what you do? What kind of results do clients see? What are your biggest challenges? But I have a feeling you're about to answer all of those questions in one shot. So I'm giving you the floor once again.
Well, my 9/11 stories, we left it where I was getting recruited by a startup that was a wellness company delivered via the internet. And it really was a wonderful opportunity to take what I did and offer it to the masses. Unfortunately, what ended up happening, even though I had 20 consultants that I was working with. One of them was Elon Musk's mom, Mae Musk, really amazing opportunity. We were working with Tony Little, who was selling billions of dollars on the internet at the time in healthcare and in exercise equipment. But we had this opportunity that was predicated on having enough money. So we ran out of money and we needed to go public. We decided the date was 9/11/2001 in Cantor Fitzgerald. And unfortunately, we weren't there because Cantor Fitzgerald didn't exist at the time that our appointment was. And we went really through a tailspin at that time. I had 500,000 founder shares that was worth zero. We went bankrupt and I had to put my tail between my legs and go, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to what I was doing before, private practice, where I couldn't really, I don't think I was at the point where I was prepared to do what I'm doing now, to do it myself. So I pivoted into corporate America. And I started, because I was a certified diabetes educator, I started selling insulin pumps. And it took me 3 months to go from working in what I was doing to be able to get into to prove as a clinician that I could be a salesman. And it was an amazing transformation of this pivot of going, hey, you know what? This sales process is very much like the therapeutic process. It's problem solving. I'm really good at that. I've been trained in that. I used to train dietitians to do this.
Right.
So it was a really amazing experience of going and being successful in that profession in sales. But I also then got recruited because unfortunately the FDA said you can't import insulin pumps anymore. And that was an experience, another pivot that I had to now get into another company, which was KCI. And that's now 3M. It's owned by 3M, but it was selling. It was also a sales position that then took me to leadership. So I was able to work as a regional district manager, and then I became a corporate accounts manager. And then I pivoted to another company, recruited me for leadership as a regional manager. And then I helped build their clinical team. I was the national clinical manager. They didn't have a clinical team for selling. Selling accelerates the sales process. So they said, hey, pitch it to us. And they put me in charge and I built a clinical team. But they went through 5 leadership changes in 4 years. And wonderful thing happened. That's 20 years of my life right there. But it was a wonderful experience of being on global teams for go-to-market strategy, being able to travel to places like England and launch a brand new medical device that I was part of developing. And even though there's a long story there, but the thing about it is working with marketing, working with sales and leadership, working with training, working with HR, I learned what it takes to be a leader. I really excelled. I really loved a concept of leadership, that it's not being in charge, it's taking charge of the people that are in your charge. And I love, Simon Sinek was one of my mentors. I just loved what he was standing for. But I wrote Finding Your Why in one of my marketing pieces 20 some years ago for this wellness company. That was what I thrived on, helping people find their why. So I was saying, I'm the Simon Sinek of nutrition, because it was sitting up in the attic for 20 years. But after COVID, collateral damage, and also there were leadership changes. So part of it is that I came back to doing what I love to do, which is really helping people find their why when it comes to their thinking, their eating, and their living. How can they live the life they've always dreamed of and get out of their own way? Then Proattitudes, really, that was how Proattitudes came to fruition. I had to go through another transformation. Again, this is probably my 7th pivot. When COVID hit and I was sitting going, you know what? No one's going to be hiring for a while. What am I going to do? And that's when I found everything that I worked on in the attic. And I had forgotten how incredible this work was. When I looked at it, I said, this should not be sitting up in the attic anymore. I love corporations. I love working with corporations, but they tend to suck the joy out of almost everything you do sometimes, not intentionally. It just happens to be that fear is a major motivator in the corporate world, because you're always trying to excel, and mistakes are frowned upon, but everybody makes mistakes. You can't, it's not a mistake. It's a learning opportunity. And it depends on the leadership you have. So when I realized that now I'm building this business, I want to serve those leaders, not just from a leadership perspective, but I want them to have the private victories, taking better care of their health themselves, so that they help their companies have public victories. And that is really how Proattitudes was found.
So was it found as a media platform to help with nutrition and mental health relatedness with food intake and all the things that we've been talking about? Or was it an actual medical equipment type of business as well?
I pivoted out of medical devices altogether. I went back to doing what I was doing before. So it was a health, wellness, and mindset coaching business, which I then started to create channels, because when you come, I never did videos, or I wrote a newsletter, but the newsletter was done on Microsoft Publisher, and I would print it, and it would be a paper copy back then, right? I used to fax information to all of my prospects, right? It was very different than what it is now. I used to, get ads in the Penny Saver, the local Penny Saver, or in the newsletter for the gym that I was in. I was in a couple of different gyms and in doctors' offices. So it's a very different world 20 years later. It's like, okay, networking, the internet, all these social media channels. So I learned by making a lot of mistakes, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, COVID was truly a catalyst for a lot of pivots. And I mean, our world is completely technological at this point. I mean, who's heard of a customer service representative when you can answer an email or send an email and have them hopefully chat with you through AI or some other means? Not to mention, of course, Zoom. What we're doing right now is on Zoom, and simultaneously, I presume that you were recording a lot of things on Zoom and then uploading them to YouTube, correct? Because I know you have a YouTube channel.
Well, I actually, a lot of the works that I'll do a Facebook Live and a LinkedIn Live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. And then I repurpose that, put it on YouTube, my YouTube channel. I don't really use the YouTube channel to promote it, but it's a great place for people to go and see the work that I've already done. But I'm on LinkedIn, and I post in LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok almost every day. Maybe not as much in TikTok, but I'm working on it. TikTok is another animal, right? And so I think that those channels are really important. And then I have a Facebook group where it's called Optimized Health for Leaders. And I think it's really important to have that for people, so that I can nurture them in that. And that was another whole understanding. Like, how do you do this? I had to learn how to do it the hard way. Trial and error.
So then, through your social channels that you have, what percentage of your audience is coming from which channel? I guess predominantly a lot from YouTube, right?
I'd say a lot of the business, I don't really have an understanding of what channels are producing the business, because most of my business is through networking. I'm old school. I like to be even though it's virtual, I like to be in front of people, and it's through word of mouth.
Yes.
And it's also, when I do my corporate work, it's because of the relationships I built. For instance, 3M, I did a presentation for them couple of years ago on cultivating optimism, but then a year later, they brought me in for a global training. It was a global leadership team that flew in. It was a live training on taking charge of change, so change doesn't take charge of you. And that was really teaching them self-care leads to better leadership, really, in a nutshell. That's really what it was. And that's what I do. I help people. Weight loss is a big part of it, but a lot of people don't have weight to lose. But what if you have diabetes? What if you have heart disease? What if you have hypertension? What if you're just stressed? What if you have issues with depression where you don't know how to quiet the thoughts that are in your head? You know, you are not your thoughts and your feelings. You're the witness to your thoughts and feelings. And when you can separate those, amazing things start to happen. You start to develop your attitude muscle. And that's part of my program. What I do is to develop that attitude muscle so that you can get stronger, so your commitments can become greater than your compulsions.
Okay, so great. So you've been able to convert a percentage of your audience into actual clients that you work with, especially on their weight and diabetic issues, if they have any, cardiac issues, if they have any. But a majority of your audience sees you, whether you're speaking live or whether you're on a podcast or whether you're generating your own media channel. So you're keeping yourself visible, minimizing your pivots, but using the gift that COVID provided, which was a technological world that we're all living life through these days. And at the same time, being at your home office or wherever you are right now, and being able to really provide the best training and coaching to those leaders that you're working with. I guess that's the predominant audience you have, leadership. Or do you also have regular patients?
I have regular clients that will come to me, but most of my clients, I focus on my target is leaders and business owners, and specifically, I like to work with pre-diabetes and diabetes because 51% of the Americans right now have either diabetes or pre-diabetes, and half of the people who have diabetes don't even know it. And over 70% of Americans are either obese or overweight. And when you think about, would you want to spend the last 10 years of your life managing a chronic illness, or would you rather be enjoying spending the time with your grandkids, traveling, having the freedom to do what you want to do? And that's what I help people do, is live the life they've always dreamed of.
Correct. So listen, everybody, after the show is over, I would highly suggest that you click on to both his website, proattitudes.com, as well as his YouTube channel. When we go into the next break, I will show the YouTube channel. I'll even stream up and down, and you can see the nature of what is there for any of you out there to check out and see if maybe Proattitudes is a place for you to go ahead and use your mind to save your life if you have cardiac issues, but more importantly, lose weight and have the energy, like what your video said, that the energy you had 20 years earlier. I know I'm working hard to get there again myself, but I did point out we're headed for another break. So that being said, please stay tuned, as we're now going to talk more about the in-depth nature of Proattitudes, as well as some other interesting information when we return right here on talkradio.nyc, as well as Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We'll be back in a few.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic.
Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hey, everybody. So you saw right there the YouTube channel, but tell the audience exactly where they need to search. I know they have to subscribe to the channel, but I think it is at Proattitudes and a number. Actually, I think I could show it again.
I don't really use my YouTube channel, so I don't know the number, but it's there as a depository, and people have it through proattitudes.com/follow is the best way to everything that I have. And that way they can see all the channels that I'm on, look at my latest posts. I'm most active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really where I'm most comfortable, and that's where the business leaders are anyway. But YouTube is the suppository for the deposit. Boy, that was a Freudian slip. Depository, right? For all the things that I've been doing. But on that follow, they can take my lifestyle challenge quiz, which is something that I use as a tool that looks at
I have that. Let me switch the screen and show it to everybody, and you could just talk me through it, or talk everyone through it.
There are 7 key areas that I work on to help people. I focus on those areas in that lifestyle challenge quiz. So all they have to do is take the lifestyle quiz. That will make a difference for them. If they want to get started, what I call a jumpstart program, they're getting your personal first step. Most people get stuck because they don't know what the first step is. That's and this is what I provide as value to people. There's no charge to any of these things. And then they can jump on a call with me, again, no charge, just to review it, because I want to help as many people as I can. And then the next one is joining my Facebook group that I mentioned. It's Optimized Health for leaders. And it uses the B3 way. That's my method: become, be strong, be grateful. I created that because I think that it's about the transformation. How do you go from being a caterpillar to a butterfly? Well, the butterfly told the caterpillar, you got to want to fly so badly, you're willing to give up being a caterpillar. Well, that's the become component. What's your why? How do you connect to that? What's the intention? So we develop that after we do the lifestyle challenge quiz. I create a personalized plan for you. And it's not a diet. That's where losing weight without diets is important for people to understand. Diets are transactional. I want you to have a relationship with yourself that doesn't allow you to go on and off, feel good and bad, and constantly beat yourself up in shame and blame with every diet that you go on. And also being fearful of what might be coming because you're not taking care of yourself. So that's how that will take you down my training on how to lose weight without dieting. And then you can email me.
This is a video, right?
It's a video. Yep.
Okay.
And then there's picking a time to meet with me. If they want to schedule an appointment just to talk with me, again, no charge.
Right. And they can also email you, and they can pick a time, either during the video or even right here on this page after they've done the quiz.
And any of those will give them that option so that they can schedule time with me.
Awesome. Well, don't be surprised if you see my name in the next few weeks. I mean, ironically, I think I'm one of those people that, you mentioned earlier that you had a name, Heavy Evie. Is that it? Mine was when I was a teenager, even younger than that, I was Fat Frank, so the thing is that for me, it was Weight Watchers. Say it again.
Kids can be so cruel.
Yeah, people can be. And then, of course, as a lot of my listeners know, I've been living my life since I was 16 with epilepsy. So if they weren't picking on my weight, they were picking on that I was out of my mind. But, enough with the stigmas. I think I've been able to somehow successfully remove them. I make jokes out of them at this point, or try to create them into enterprising ideas. Like Frank About Health was originally going to be called Frank About Epilepsy. So here we are now talking about nutrition, but again, it's using whatever you've been through to be able to give back to others in a much magnanimous way than you would have under normal circumstances.
Absolutely.
And that's what it looks like you've done.
Yeah.
So tell me about your book. I know you have a book that's on sale on Amazon.com.
So here's my book. Part of this was a labor of love that I wanted to be able to share what I did, rather, because the website didn't go, the wellness company did not go. So I said, well, what am I going to do? But I spent 20 years in corporate America. I never really, I did write a book back 25 years ago, and it was for Oxford Health Plan. And I said, well, I could take this book, I could just repurpose it. And I said, no, I want to rewrite it. So I sat down and I rewrote it to make it more about what's going on today. What's great about it is that the basic principles that I had that were theory back then are now all solidified with a lot of research, solid research, like neuroplasticity, the whole concept of that we can actually learn and change. I mean, it's rock solid science right now. Habits are so much more important. I put habits first. You have habits here, then after habits, then it's nutrition, then supplementations, and only if absolutely necessary, then you consider referring to a doctor for medication. Most patients will come to me, clients will come to me saying, oh, doctor wants me to go on medication. And I'm like, okay, well, what else have you done? Well, nothing really, right? So why go on medication? Yes, medication serves a purpose. You need to have certain medications, but what if you could manage this disease, which really isn't a disease? What is it? It's a matter of those neural pathways being diseased for so long that you've allowed yourself to feed yourself so much that your insulin resistance is high, so high that your blood sugars are elevated. Well, what if we change those habits? We do it soon enough, we either reduce the amount of medication or we eliminate it. It's pretty amazing what you can do. I mean, it's not something that it's anybody, it's possible for anybody. And I had one client that came to me. He was going to go for gastric bypass surgery on Monday. He called me on Thursday because
this past week.
Not this week. This happened in beginning of the year, around in January.
Oh, okay.
He called me, and instead of going to gastric surgery, he was going to do the gastric surgery on Monday. I didn't convince him. I just listened. He was not convinced. He had done the research and found that 30 to 40% of people gain the weight back after 3 years. And only 85% of them gain the weight back after 5 years. He says, why would I want to do that? And I said, it's worth trying. I said, I've had people come to me that are so heavy they can't be measured, over 500 pounds, and got them down below 300 without diets, without gastric surgery. And so I've done that in the past. So he's now down. I met him, we work weekly, and he was down 82 pounds the last time we talked. He has 20 more pounds to go, and it's without the surgery and no diets. Yeah.
So he's going to be his weight is going to be in the hundreds or early 200s.
He's going to be down below 200 soon.
Amazing.
Very soon. Yep. And then he's almost there. He's lost over 80 pounds. So it's amazing, right? It's not about the diet. It's about the mindset. It's about changing the reframe in your mind, saying, well, just this once I won't, versus just this once I will. Willpower is something that's it's fleeting. It's not always available. There are some people have really great willpower and others that don't. Well, I work by making it so easy that willpower isn't even an option. It's not a problem. You start that way, you create momentum, and that's what's going to build your capacity. You go from having the courage to make the commitment, it makes you feel courageous, and then you feel capable. Once you have that capacity, now you feel confident, and that gives you the confidence to make more commitments. You use the courage to make more commitments, you feel more capable, and that leads to competency. And once you have that competency, you get the skill, and then we work on mastery. It's not a really, it's something we do in business too. You know, in business coaching, I learned that in business coaching, but I said, this is something I do with my clients. So it's really amazing. It's not rocket science, but it really makes a difference when you listen to understanding what triggers people and understand that it's thoughts and the feelings that are getting in the way that are being fed from the inner critics. And the inner critics are the judge that's in your head that says, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not fast enough, you're not enough. And if you don't listen to me, you're not going to be successful. It's all the negative thoughts and feelings. And some people think that it's necessary to listen to that in order to be successful. And I'm going to tell you, those are lies being whispered in your ear. And what I do is to help expose that inner critic so that you can quiet that inner critic and start listening to your inner coach. Let's start listening to the Yoda instead of Darth Vader. Mine is, he used to be 6 feet tall. This is my inner critic. He's only 6 inches now. So my thing here is, you can do that. I love working with people to help them quiet that inner critic. It's one things that I love doing. And we do it through meditation and mindfulness exercises, through sensory command exercises. We do it through imagery. We do it through certain types of coaching exercises and techniques. And it's a really easy, fun way to get people to realize you don't have to be on a diet. Have you ever seen a bird so fat he can't fly? Have you ever seen a squirrel so fat he can't put his clothes around a tree trunk? It doesn't happen. They don't go, I can't eat that sunflower seed because it's too high in fat, or that chestnut because it's too high in carbs. No, they eat what's out there, but we eat highly processed foods. That's the thing that's really the biggest stumbling block. And people don't realize the empty calories and the forgotten calories that they're eating. It's still the law of thermodynamics. And I really make it easy to get people to change these habits instead of going on a diet. And they see the results.
That was a forced intermission. Can you hear me?
I hear you, but did somebody freeze?
I noticed that you were about to say something and you froze, unless I looked on your end like I was frozen, I gather.
It might have been. I don't know.
But thank you, Logan. I think you refreshed us.
Are we still on, or are we on our break?
We're still on. What's probably going to happen is, I know, ladies and gentlemen, you're hearing the technical features of our show, but hey, I'm being frank about everything, so I can't help it. The audio version of the show will probably edit out that space that was just no sound. But I guess what will happen on the video portion is we'll probably see a little delay of frozen footage, and then it'll just skip to the next segment, which is about to be another break. But can you at least finish the last line of what you said before we go into the next break?
I don't remember what was it that I was saying that was
the inner critic. You were saying about the inner critic.
And something about Darth Vader or something.
Exactly.
I love it.
Well,
it's quieting that inner critic. If I don't remember exactly what the line was, but the idea is that if we froze when it was Darth Vader, what I'm trying to do is to get people to quiet that voice that's in their head, because they're not their thoughts or their feelings. And when they do that, they develop the inner coach. That's part of the attitude muscle that I develop when everybody has an attitude muscle. And it's something that just like going to the gym, if you don't exercise your muscles, you're not going to build muscles. Well, it's the same thing with your attitude muscle. If you don't build that muscle, you're not going to be able to make your commitments greater than your compulsions. And that is a process that I create that It's easy. Now it's, to me, I've been doing this for over 30 years with my clients. But now that I've come back to it, I've included even more after all the research that's out there to support everything that I've done. So it's a lot of fun helping these people, but the inner critic to me is the most important component.
And I was going to ask you some questions about that story of the guy that lost the 80 pounds, but when we return, that's when I will ask. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our legitimate break right now, right here on talkradio.nyc and on Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn. We'll be back in a few.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Aspel, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Okay, so now I think it's time that I will just recap the last 45 minutes. We learned a lot with Evan and his history, both as a registered dietitian, the jobs that he carried along the way, his 9/11 story, how Proattitudes was born, the use of working with a lot of leaders during his private practice, and then when COVID hit, realizing he had to use all of the innovations that COVID provided, including social media, and then just being able to now make what is probably a thriving company over the last, what is it now, 3 years, 5 years?
No, little over 3 years.
Awesome. And are there plans to go public on this one yet, or are you still keeping it where it's
Not
growing?
yet. I'm working on scaling right now, and then the goal will be to find a pathway towards that. Yes.
Awesome. Definitely, I will be in touch with you as a potential member, but that's because I've been okay with my weight. I was actually pre-diabetic, and now I'm no longer pre-diabetic. I'm 5.4 A1C, and I drink a lot of green tea and a lot of electrolyte water, and I eat when I'm hungry, not when I'm stressed out. I mean, believe me, I've had those moments. But over the last few months, especially when doing my caregiving for my father and my cousin, and the viewers know what that's all about, there have been Starbucks moments just to get through it, But either way, from that all being said, the takeaway that I'm getting is that you have been able to take your own, I guess, eating experience, your own traumas, your own entrepreneurial and corporate background, your training as a clinical dietitian, nutritionist, and be able to just bring everything into focus. That is what I think is truly a healthy mindset. Anyone who is able to take any of their traumas or their illnesses or whatever other issues that they're going through and turn it into a golden opportunity, not only to manage and live through and recover from, but to give back to those that don't have the resources that you yourself had. So I think you're on the mark with that, especially with your book and your YouTube channel. And I'm interested to learn more about some other group that you mentioned to me about. I think you call them the Circle 7 group. I could be
H7. So I'm part of a network
H7.
group, yes, where I
Yes.
I have something called Health Corner. It's every Monday at noon. It is Eastern time. And what we do is for the same thing that I do with my business, optimizing your health for leaders. We know that people are part of networks and in learning how to optimize their business. Well,
Right.
a good part of that is taking care of your health so that you can be more productive and more engaged. You know that 3:00 time when everybody's yawning and they like, oh, where's that cup of coffee? Well, you should be like having energy through the wazoo. Why not have the energy you had 20 years ago? You can.
Yes.
What about having a really great night's sleep? What about not
Right.
being afraid to go to the doctor because the report card you're going to get, right? So these are the things that we do in H7 on Health Corner. And I don't have a link there, but if anybody's interested, just email me Health Corner in the subject, and I'll be happy to send you a link to register. No charge. You can come for a couple times before you're interested, just so you can try it out. It's a great way to network as well as join and learn how to take better care of yourself.
It's evan.mestman@gmail.
No, it's Evan at proattitudes.com. But they click on if you're going to give them, everyone's going to get that. It's proattitudes.com/follow. And that's going to get them all of the things that it's called the link tree. Everything will be there.
Okay, cool. Now, the question I had for you about that case that you mentioned in the last segment, he was coming at you with 500 pounds. He went all the way down to less than 200.
No. I had an experience of people who were over 500 pounds. I've worked with people who are over 500 pounds. This man came to me as a business owner. He happened to own a restaurant, making it more challenging. And he had 100 pounds that he wanted to lose. They were promising him 100 pounds in a year, but without the surgery, it's only, he's 9 months in, just 10 months in, and he's already down nearly 90 pounds. So he only has 10 more pounds, 10, 15 more pounds to go till the end of the year. And that's without surgery. And he's not doing it with the diet. It's all mindset.
But because he was working with you in a coaching relationship, to him, while a diet may make you feel, oh my God, I have to be on this diet for 1 or 2 or 3 years, it may have felt to him that time was flying.
Yeah, well, he's having a good time. He's loving it. And it's about the relationship he has with himself, the relationship he has with his kids and his family, the relationship he has with his partner and his friends. That's what needs to be worked on. And that's part of what I just call that the underlying issues. Food is never the real underlying issue. Food is the symptom. Deal with the underlying issues, which is the inner critic.
Correct. And historically, or even just the way our obesity rate is in this country, most people are looking for that quick fix. So they see food. There you go. Better than the alternative in terms of, like you mentioned earlier, drugs or alcohol or whatever. But the thing is they're still looking outside of themselves rather than looking inward. And I guess what you train the individual to do is learn who the inner critic is and teach them how to have a relationship with that inner critic.
Exactly. And the other thing that's really important is that we don't just focus on outcomes. It's not about losing the weight. It's about the system. James Clear said it best. We always aspire to our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems. And so I create a system or routines that if, you say, this is a non-negotiable and I can agree to do this every day, ordinary things is going to lead to a transformation, just like it did for me. And then what we do is we focus on identity. That is really where things change, where a business owner now says, hey, I'm a healthy business owner. When I hear one of my clients say that, I'm like, I didn't choose that because I can't relate to that anymore. It's kind of like a smoker saying, somebody who's now a non-smoker and says, they're not that, oh, I can't be in a room with somebody smoking, but they go into that room as a non-smoker now and go, ooh, that really repulses me. Because their identity now is as a non-smoker, not as somebody who quit smoking. It's the same thing with eating. You need to create an identity. around what you truly want. And that's when you change your mindset. So one of the tools. I see that one of us is frozen, and I think it's you, Frank. But if it is, yes, we lost Frank again. But for those of you, I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on the show. I know we're in the last few minutes. One of the things that I'd love to do is to help anybody that is interested in losing weight or getting a better handle on their health. If you're looking to actually, you can download this book at no charge at my website. It's a gift that I have for you. Go on to the website.
But we are literally about to end the hearing me and not seeing my face move. Radio.ny.
And now we're almost at the end of the show. I'm not sure if this is recording for me, but we lost Frank, unfortunately. There he is. Okay.
So I literally thought we lost you. So I started announcing tomorrow's slate of shows. I gather that wasn't heard at all, correct?
No, but I was holding up the show while you were gone. Go ahead. It's yours.
All right. So thank you again, Evan. I was saying I will call you in about 45 minutes to tell you what I think about the show, sans the technical difficulties, but I thought it was a great show. Everybody, please look at Evan Mestman's website, proattitudes.com. Look at his YouTube channel, get his book, and get a call in with him, because I do believe that you can use your mind to lose your weight. What I talked about was tomorrow's slate of shows is Philanthropy and Focus, always Friday, and Intangify. And then the Hard Skills Now is on Tuesdays at 5. And I'll be back next week after Dismantle Racism and Sam's Conscious Consultant Hour with a new episode. Because it's going to be November, it's not going to be about mental health, but it'll be something interesting. Thank you again, Evan, for being here. Thank you again for all of you having the patience listening through the technical difficulties and whatever. But again, use your mind to lose your weight, and I'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks again.
And